Alright guys, hope you're all doing well, hope you're all keeping safe, hopefully you all had a good weekend back to work. I've actually got the day off, which is pretty nice, and what I wanted to do for today's video is I noticed a few videos this weekend around Kinetic Momentum versus Glass Cannon. I think the initial video came from Nothing But Skills, other people have also covered it as well, and I basically wanted to chime in on this because there has been some confusion around which one is more powerful and that sort of thing. And whilst I'm not the best person at maths in the world at all, I'm pretty good at quick maths, but aside from that, you know, fractions and decimal points and Pythagoras and all that sort of stuff, that's not really for me. I mean, I've been out of school for a long time, so yeah, definitely not my forte. However, there are some smart people online, and also I've ran some of my tests myself, and I've just kind of looked at the numbers, and I think it's pretty clear which one wins it on this one, and it is Glass Cannon, or Perfect Glass Cannon if you're going for that variant. And I kind of wanted to show you why. With that said, would I choose that? Probably not, but we'll go over that in this video. So that's kind of the, I guess, the synopsis for this one, but I wanted to kind of go into a bit more detail with you guys. So drop a like on the video if you enjoy this one, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and we'll get into this. We'll get into the numbers and stuff, and yeah, let's do it. Alright guys, so we're in the base of operations, and I'm going to keep this as fair as possible. So here's the build that I'm going to be using for this test. Now, as you can see, we got 3-piece Empress, we got 1-piece Wyvern, we got Fox's Prayers here with Overlord, and then we've also got Hannah Yu. And the most important pieces here, guys, are the chest piece, and then also the backpack. And I'll explain why in a moment. So we're going to go straight down to the firing range. I'm not going to cut or edit this video in any way. We're kind of going to just go through it and we'll talk about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to change my difficulty here so that we just got a constant way of testing this. We're going to go for the invulnerable state, which will go right here. And okay, we're going to choose 5 meters, the closest we can. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just test generally how strong these pieces of gear are, right? And I already know what this is going to be just because it's pretty simple. So if I just use Kinetic Momentum here, it's 151,146. Okay, so that's pretty. I mean, that's about as clear cut as you're going to get, right? That's just Kinetic Momentum on its own, no other buffs. And it's important I tell you there's no other buffs, because that's actually, you're going to see, that's actually what's going to make the biggest difference here. So if I go down to Kinetic Momentum, I'm only going to test this against Glass Cannon, because you don't really need to test it against Perfect Glass Cannon, just because Perfect Glass Cannon does exactly the same as Glass Cannon with its interactions. It's just a little bit stronger, right? Perfect Glass Cannon is 30% amplified damage, and this is 25%. So if I just go back here, in fact I don't even need to change the difficulty on this, because we're just going to check the numbers here. So this is Glass Cannon, wrong target, 145,332. Okay, so it's about a 6,000 difference there, right? So if you're just going off of that, if that's all you are concerned about, if that's what you want to know, then yes, in that respect, Kinetic Momentum is stronger at full stacks than Perfect Glass Cannon. If you were to compare it, than Glass Cannon, if you were to compare it to Perfect Glass Cannon, it would be about the same. And the reason why is because if we go to, have I got another piece with Kinetic Momentum on? I think I probably have. So Kinetic Momentum, when you've got full stacks, it will actually be, it's 15 stacks per skill lost when on cooldown. And because I've got 2 skills on, it means I'm getting 30% skill damage on this piece. So if you compare that to, say, Glass Cannon, which gives you 25%, then that's where the difference is. It's at 5%. If you had to have Perfect Glass Cannon, it would be about the same at 30%. So, yeah, there you go. So, in terms of just comparing the two, then Kinetic Momentum is stronger. With that said, and this is important, guys. So, actually, now that I've got, I think I've got Glass Cannon on, haven't I? So, with that said, no one is running a build and just using the chest cannon on its own, right? If you're running a skill build, then you are going to be running a backpack skill that's going to interact with that chest piece. So let's check this out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm actually going, and also you're probably going to be, if I just use, I'm going to use my weapon here. Now my weapon's actually got in sync, but for the purposes of this test, I'm going to be using this weapon for both the glass cannon, and I'm also going to be using this weapon for kinetic momentum as well. Okay, so that way, you know, it is a fair kind of test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack this down. We're going to use this. We know what it's going to get. It's 145,332. Okay, but my backpack has perfect combined arms, which gives me combined arms, which gives me an extra 25% skill damage for 3 seconds. Plus, I'm using in sync here, which gives me an extra 15% skill damage as well. So let me just try this out, and you're going to see the number: 209,600. Okay, so bear that in mind, guys. Just remember that. So 209,600 is the number. Okay, so that's with in sync, with combined arms, and also with glass cannon. Okay, 209,600. And I'm going to go back to my the recal station here. We're going to recal onto kinetic momentum. We're going to see the difference. Okay, so if we get kinetic momentum here, just got about enough stuff to do this. Then we're going to go and test this out. Now, if you're going by the initial, what we initially tested out, where kinetic momentum was stronger, then you go to this and you expect it to be stronger here, right? Because before it was about 6,000 stronger. However, there is a difference here, guys, and you're going to see it here. So if I do this again, if I go to 5 meters and I put down my turrets, if I use that, as you can see, 151,146, which is about 6,000 stronger than glass cannon with no other buffs active. However, if I use the same setup here, and this goes to 207,924. Okay? 207,924. So it's less. It's about 2,000 less than using the glass cannon. If I was using perfect glass cannon at 30%, then it would be, you know, that would be even stronger. So actually, kinetic momentum when you're using other buffs is weaker than glass cannon, and it's because glass cannon is amplified damage. Okay, it doesn't take into account other damage, it's on top of other damage, whereas when it comes to kinetic momentum is not amplified damage, it's skill damage. Okay, so when you put on other stuff like other skill damage, then it doesn't amplify that. And so I'm not the math guy, like I said, and I'm going to actually go to a post here on Reddit which explains it better than I can to show you what I'm talking about. And so if you're just wondering which one's stronger generally, then kinetic momentum is stronger as a talent. But when it comes to a build and using it with other stuff, which, you know, 99% of people using skill builds are gonna do, and that's what people really care about, right? They're not when people ask, is kinetic momentum stronger than glass cannon, they're not asking that question. What they're asking is, should I use kinetic momentum in my build over glass cannon in terms of damage? And in terms of damage, then glass cannon is stronger. But let's take a look at this Reddit post. So guys, this post here says kinetic momentum versus glass cannon on a turret drone skill build, clarifying the confusion being posted on YouTuber's channel. Now, I'm not going to read this part because actually, as we'll see down here, this doesn't take into account other stuff. So what I would want to do is to actually read this part here. So this person's obviously good with their math, which I'm not, so let's go for this. A glass cannon is amplified damage and it's always 25% more damage regardless of the build and other buffs. Kinetic momentum gives at 4 stacks 30% total skill damage, and depending on the other sources of total skill damage, it provides different damage increases, or damage increase. So with perfect combined arms, which gives 30%, and Overwatch, which gives 12%, it actually only gives you 21.13% more damage from kinetic momentum. With tech support or combined arms and Overwatch, it's 21.9%. And as you can see, basically the less damage there is elsewhere, the more it gets closer to that 30% with kinetic momentum. So as you can see here, with just 12% total skill damage elsewhere from Overwatch, then you're actually getting 26.79% more damage from kinetic momentum. You only get the 30% more damage when there are no other skill damage buffs elsewhere. And that's important to note. Glass Cannon provides more damage than Kinetic Momentum, except in case you will also use other talents like Shock and Awe or Overwatch, or no other talents that gives total skill damage. The reason you got more damage out of, and they're talking about the poster here, out of Kinetic Momentum than Glass Cannon, your test, is because you didn't have Perfect Combined Arms buff active. So Glass Cannon gave 25% more damage, while Kinetic Momentum gave 30% more damage. Okay, again, just want to clarify, you're only getting that 30% more damage from Kinetic Momentum when you're having no other buffs that provide skill damage elsewhere. And that's just never going to happen. You're just never going to run a skill build that does that, because it would make no sense. Also, Perfect Glass Cannon provides 30% amplified damage, so it's 4% more damage than Glass Cannon, and beats One Piece Wyvern with its 10% skill damage brand bonus if there's at least 160% skill damage attributes, which is possible with Capacitor at max 40 stacks. So here's the test here that they did. So they have 3-piece Empress, 2-piece Hanayu, 1-piece Providence or 1-piece Wyvern, Perfect Combined Arms Backpack, Perfect Glass Cannon, and Kinetic Momentum, Capacitor, Harmony Named Rifle Secondary, max skill damage on gear, max Shade Watch, 4.9% turret damage mod. So, max assault rifle damage recorded with all buffs active. Wyvern Vest with Kinetic Momentum, 267,000. Wyvern Vest with Glass Cannon, 271,000. Providence Vest with Perfect Glass Cannon, because you can only get Perfect Glass Cannon on Providence, 272,000. And they've put, I still prefer Glass Cannon over Kinetic, etc, etc. So, and the reason they've given this is because you get weapon damage as well as skill damage. Plus, Perfect Glass Cannon with Red Core fits perfectly on a technician build with one skill tier without the need to find a God Rolled Wyvern piece, Hanayu or Empress piece. So, in terms of a build and just output of damage when you've got other buffs active, Glass Cannon is stronger than Kinetic Momentum. As a talent on its own with no other buffs active, Kinetic Momentum is stronger, but that's just, there's no situation where you're playing in this game and you're running a skill build that's going to be a scenario, right? You're always going to have, or try and have, other talents active, whether that be Perfect Combined Arms, it could be tech support, whatever. You're always going to try and get buffs elsewhere. It could be from your weapon, etc. And so in that case, Glass Cannon is going to be stronger. With that said, if you are using Glass Cannon, then you are going to be accepting of the fact that you are going to take 50% more damage from targets. So that's the kind of trade-off, right? Is you can either get an extra 3 to 5% extra damage. I think it actually is up to 9% extra damage from Glass Cannon or Perfect Glass Cannon, and take on that 50%. That's up to you. Or 60% with Perfect Glass Cannon. Personally, for me, if I'm running a build, I'm going to be running Kinetic Momentum. And the reason why is because, especially if I'm using something like the Capacitor, the new assault rifle, you're going to find in a lot of situations you're going to want to get those 40 stacks, those buffs up, right? And the only way of getting those buffs off are being out of cover, or certainly poking your head out. And if you're taking 60% extra skill damage, then a lot of the time you're gonna take one hit, you're gonna go straight into cover, and then you're gonna find that actually you're not being able to utilize a build with something like Glass Cannon, because a lot of the time people use Glass Cannon for that extra weapon damage, but actually most of the time you're not going to be using that weapon damage because you're going to take so much incoming damage that you're going to find that a lot of the time you just don't want to poke out. Whereas when you're using Kinetic Momentum and you're using something like the Capacitor and you're getting those 40 stacks or whatever, you are going to be able to be out of cover for much longer than someone using Glass Cannon. And so, in effect, your DPS may actually be higher in the long run because of the fact that you can stay out of cover longer, you can do that weapon damage for longer. So, it's really preference. But if you're like me and you kind of want, you want your skills to do everything, but you also want to be able to poke your head out and not feel that you're going to get one-tapped, especially if you're playing on something like Legendary, for example, then you're going to want to use Kinetic Momentum. It's just always going to be the better option. The difference in damage that you get, just in raw damage that you get from Glass Cannon between that and Kinetic Momentum is so negligible that I really don't feel like it's worth it when you're taking 50% or 60% extra damage. But that's obviously up to you. But that's it, guys. That's it for today's video. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that kind of clears up the whole discussion around this, and you guys can understand exactly what it is. At the end of the day, it's preference. It's what you want. Do you want to do 9% less damage but not take an extra 60% damage. And that's really the question you're asking yourself. With that said, in the long run, Kinetic Momentum in terms of overall DPS over a period of time may actually be stronger, because you are going to find that you can use your weapon a lot more than someone using Glass Cannon. But again, that's kind of RNG-ish, because it depends on whether NPCs are actually going to be targeting you. If you're playing on Legendary or Heroic, then you're going to get down pretty quickly, down your health, and you're not going to want to poke out. Whereas with Kinetic Momentum, you may find that you can poke out a lot more, and thus you are going to be doing more damage as a result. Thanks very much for watching. Until the next one, guys. Epic out.